media treatment of different situations. In 2010, there were two major catastrophes, humanitarian catastrophes. There was Haiti, earthquake in Haiti, and landslide in Pakistan. And the treatment of the media was strikingly different. I mean, in the case of Haiti, in the first 10 days, 80% of the money asked by the UN was covered. As for Pakistan, it was 20%. And in Haiti, you had 1.5 million people affected, and in Pakistan, you had 13.6. So this balance is not only because of the media, but it's the media considered Haiti poor country, this earthquake coming suddenly, and it's not the first one, and it's easy to go, and a lot of stars went, and it was speeches and support. As for Pakistan, it's more considered as a volatile, troublesome hotspot, difficult to reach and to go inside, and so this feeling, this difference of feeling, is one of the reasons why we have this kind of treatment. So he has to be. It's a question of perception. This perception is linked to different things that are very common in media. The first one is the death toll. The more death you have, the more interested are the media, which is exactly not the same for Pakistan and Haiti, but it's something that is important to remember, that the media react a lot to the number of deaths than if no Swiss organization is working. So this cultural proximity is important, and also because the Swiss people will give money to this organization, and they want to know what happened with this money. One other issue is the impact on us. What given situation impact my life? It is far away and no cultural link, it doesn't impact my life at all. This is why you have underreported situation very often. Another bias for the media, which is very common, is that the complicated situations are much more underreported than the simple situation. When you have an earthquake, you have a beginning, you have a crash, you have a number of people, it's very clear, it's easy to explain. When you have a long story of ups and downs, and yes and no, and negotiation and no negotiation, and war again, and it becomes very difficult to explain to the normal reader. And the media more than before, they do not take care of explaining all these details of the complicated situation, the complexity of the situation. So we said this morning that we know that Yemen is an underreported situation, but I found, preparing this day, I found a paper from CARE NGO. This is the CARE Australia, in a survey of the underreported situation, humanitarian situation in the world. And the first one is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and the second one is Congo, and Burundi, Sudan, Democratic Mali, Lake Chad Basin, Central African Republic. I mean, just to say that Yemen is not the issue underreported. It's one of the issues underreported in the world. It's not. So it's specific because you are involved in it's your country. But for the media in general, European media, it's one situation, and it's striking to see the difference between Syria and Yemen, because it's about the same distance, or maybe Yemen is more distant. But probably the link between Europe and Syria, for any reason, is closer than in Yemen, and also because probably this is my personal assessment that from the beginning the situation was in the following up of what was called the Arab Revolution. So it was, again, it was clear cut. You have one government that was felt illegitimate or not democratic, and we are in opposition. And then it became very, very complicated. And now you cannot, probably, I didn't check that, probably if you go in the media, you will not find a good picture of who is doing what, because it became so complicated, or it's roughly explained. But from the beginning, it was very simple. The regime and the opposition, and it was very simple, and it was in the following up of Egypt, Tunisia. Now, about the relation between media and humanitarian, because if the media has to cover humanitarian issue, they need to collaborate each other. The media with the humanitarian, and humanitarian with the media. The media need the humanitarians because it gives them access to sources, to stories, to context. The NGOs or government or multilateral organization, usually they stay longer in a situation, even in a crisis situation. What I mean longer, it can be 10 days. But the reporters nowadays, they just hit and run. I mean, they come for 2-3 days, they take that and they go. And they get their background from the humanitarian most of the time, or for some colleagues. But it was a time where journalists would stay much longer, not any longer. The media have less preparation than before, because normally no time and so on and so forth. So media send people to the field that they don't have the background. They don't have. This is not typical for the humanitarians, for all the foreign situations. You don't have anymore, for example, journalists specialized in humanitarian issues. Very few. They are working in different fields, and they are picked up for humanitarian crisis because they are here, or maybe because they follow the last one. But there is no longer a specialty in humanitarian issues where you know how to handle not only the relation with the government, the NGOs and so on, but also with the victims. There is, from the humanitarian side, they need the media also, because for different reasons. The biggest and most important reasons for the NGOs is for funding. If they have an article, if they have a picture, the logo, the name, money is coming. For the government, it's for the image. This is why you see everywhere, and you can see it in the documentation here, that the organization, they put their logo on the when they have, or they have a jacket, or they have because it's the image of the that is important. So it's money, image, both of them, and the problem of the media is trying not to be manipulated or instrumentalized by the NGO, because the NGO have their own agenda. And this relation can be complicated to assess. I mean, the media have, the journalists have to be very careful not to be manipulated or instrumentalized. From the humanitarian sides, what they don't like so much is criticism for the media. So there is a kind of level of common understanding that they have to reach to trust enough each other to be able to work together. But they have to work together, because they really need to be together on the issue. Also, a problem that can be a lack of trust is that both of them can have their own agenda. A media, when it's a governmental media or private business media, they may have own agenda um, for marketing, propaganda, whatever, and the NGOs too. They can have a own agenda. Usually, the reflex of the media people is to trust the NGOs, but they forget that the NGOs, they are just actors, they are just entities, and we have to treat them as a source, not to be on their side because they are doing the good. I mean, of course, we tend to do on this side because we are normally doing this, but we have to keep in mind that the actors, they have their bias, they have the agenda, and we have to be careful not to be also instrumentalized by the NGOs or government or whatever. Usually, they also have a problem of capacity because I went to some press trip. I remember one in Lebanon with a group of young journalists. I was somehow coaching. And we went to the south. And I remember one of the press officers said, "You cannot imagine how difficult and how much time it takes for us to organize a press trip for a group of 10 journalists with all the schedule, with all the, it's time consuming, and some organizations they don't have this capacity, so they just when the journalists come, they say, yes, no, come tomorrow, and so the NGO they have to have a media plan, a media, if possible, a media officer. I remember once I was in Liberia. It was between two wars, and the humanitarian situation was really dire. And I visited Médecins Sans Frontières. And at some point, he went out of the room to prepare a tea or something. And they had a big file like this with a kind of manual, field manual. And I just checked, and it was a chapter on media. So I just, you know. And I realized that they are really educated and prepared to respond to the media. When the journalist comes, you take care, you take your time, because this is an asset, not only for this trip, but for the next one. Because now you know that I worked quite a bit with, let's say, Handicap International in Cambodia and in different situations in Rwanda too. They welcomed me, they gave time. My feeling as a journalist, a human being of Handicap International is positive because of that. I had with ICRC, I had very two opposite example. I was in Liberia again. I met a guy from the ICRC, and he told me we were just 4 or 5 journalists at that time, and he told me, "Come to my office, we can talk." I said, "Okay, nice. I mean, it's a good source." And I went to his office, and he said, I was a journalist. I know the tricks, and I will not tell you anything because I know that you will repeat it everywhere, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Come on, I mean, you waste your time, you waste my time just to tell me that you cannot tell me anything. This was totally silly. On the other hand, once I was preparing a trip to Cambodia, and I met ICRC guy in Thailand, in Bangkok. He spoke to me for 1 hour. He told me very interesting thing that he was not supposed to tell me. When I left his office, he said, "We never met," or "I didn't tell you anything," but I had a very rich background to help me understand what happened at the border between Thailand and Cambodia. And this is what we need as a journalist, people trusting and giving good information. Now, I will go to, just a small think about media for victims, because this is a bit on the side, but in humanitarian situations, it's very important to keep in mind that the victims need information. So it's beside the role of the mainstream media or not mainstream media going to report, but it's important for the humanitarian actors to think that the victims need information, they need media, fair, and we have example. I mean, I think BBC has something like this in Switzerland. We have the Fondation Hirondelle doing radio here and there, reporting on humanitarian situation. And it's very, very important to fight against rumors, to fight against fake news and so on and so forth. Now, just a few words on media constraints and limits, just to understand why the media are not perfect, or why they are not as the humanitarian wish they are. The first constraint, of course, nowadays is budget. The media don't have money any longer. I mean, I'm just starting a book written by American journalists who say it was a time when I could travel wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and spend how much money I wanted with the credit card of the company. And this time is definitely gone forever. I mean, not forever, but for long. So now money, allocation of money is an issue. As I said, few crisis specialists. So will you send someone who has absolutely no clue of anything in a dangerous and sensitive field? It has to be seen. There is a phenomenon called media fatigue. The media get tired of crises one after the other, and the media cannot handle. It is said that the media cannot handle two crises at the same time. So when you have a big crisis and then a second big crisis, the second big crisis will be less covered than the first, because the money will be spent, and the same for the funders. The UN, they will spend on Pakistan and Haiti. I spoke before. They spend 96% of the aid budget on these two issues. So you can imagine what is left for the rest of the year. It was in January. So this media fatigue is not many crises at the same time, and not the same crisis for too long, because it's repetitive and so on. So it's you can blame the media, but it's also the problem of the audience, because the audience, I mean, it's a balance between two. And for the public, we speak of compassion fatigue. Okay, we give once, we give twice. We are moved by the situation once, twice, and the compassion fatigue comes also by the fact that you know that you cannot do anything. So okay, what's the point of repeating me things that I already know, but I cannot do anything about it. And this is the one of the problems for what is called compassion fatigue, and the big numbers are very abstract for the people. You can speak of million, you can speak of billion, you can speak of even thousands or 100,000. For the general public, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's just figures, it's just statistics. It's not people. Lack of access is a big problem for the journalist. No visa, no freedom to move, no openness of the country, no trust. We always, I mean, it was not humanitarian, it's a war issue. I mean, in journalism, the very big example in Vietnam War. During the Vietnam War, the press photographer, they were second in the rank to go in the helicopter after the first officer. So they could jump in any helicopter whenever they wanted or wherever they wanted. They were totally free. And this is why you have so many strong pictures of Vietnam. Now, the American government learned the lessons, and during the Iraqi war, people were embedded because they could control the people. And lack of access is probably a lack of confidence, because it's what these journalists will find out and so on and so forth. So it's a difficult balance to find. The security issue is also an issue, because now for the last 10 years, um, journalists are a bargain. I mean, you could kidnap a journalist and then bargain for money. And it became a business in some countries. So the security issue became more acute from this point of view. I mean, security issues in the field has been always a problem, but the kidnapping is quite new for the last 5-10 years. The problem was, if from the point of view of the humanitarian, is that the journalists tend to be very gregarious. They are all together. The same hotel, they go to the same places, they give the same story. So one of the assets that the humanitarian can do is to suggest new angles, new stories, if the journalists are open to it. I remember I read once the story of a journalist from New York coming to Afghanistan, and of course this journalist, they have a fixer. Fixer is the people that make the translation and guiding and so on. And he told the fixer, oh, I want to do this and that and that. And the fixer said, okay, that's good, but I have more stories very different that nobody covered. No, I want to do. So it's a lack of curiosity, and it's also the sign that the story was already cooked in the newspaper. Before even before the guy was in the field, the story was already almost written in the newspaper, which is a bias that many newspapers have. Now, I will finish with what the media need and want. They want news. As a freelance, um, I did spend quite a bit of time to convince and magazine that my story was worthwhile. And one of the first questions, what's new? I mean, we heard this story already. What is new? Why would you? Why would we speak on this topic now? And you have to argue. Oh, because this, because that, blah, blah, blah. And if it's a complicated story, it's very complicated to convince somebody who has no clue about what you are talking about. A journalist needs tangible responses. When he asks questions, he needs really responses and not, backdoor issue and something that he has to be able to trust the response. He needs good data. He needs figures. It doesn't mean that you have that he needs like this of numbers, but at least fact sheets of actual good figures with sources. Where does these figures come from? So we can check, double check, because a good journalist will never believe the humanitarian just because he is a nice guy. He has to check. So the sources are important, and he needs visual. The public and the readers and they react by emotion, and the newspapers too, and the journalists too. They need to see, to watch something, and so they need stories. And the stories, the humanitarian actors, they are in very good position, maybe the first position to give access to the ground and to give access to stories. I know someone who blah 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 blah, blah, providing that they don't give the same story to 20 other journalists, but. Or it can happen just by happen that you have a story that visually is very strong, and you like it or not, because sometimes you can say, oh, it's sensationalist. Okay, maybe, but at least it struck the attention. Um, Maybe some of you, I mean, it's 1985, but there is a story of a little girl called Mayra Sanchez. She was caught in an earthquake in Colombia. And for 3 days, she was trapped in the rubble of the house. And yet she had just the shoulders and the head out. And for 3 days, she was just dying. And they couldn't take her out. And she died in just this series, this picture is just amazing in the sense that emotionally, human, it's very strong, and it's one of the most moving story that has been published. You may remember something more recent is that in 2015, Alan Kurdi, this small boy that died on the beach in Greece. It just happened, and if you remember how the reaction all over the world because of this picture, and this is why the visual, but the honest visual, what the journalists don't like and will not buy is when you just show them what you like them to see. They want to see behind. They want to see the real, and not only what you want to communicate, because it's not about communication, it's about information. And so this is why visual is important. And to summarize all of this, they need access. If they don't have access, you have no stories, you have no visual, you have no. You may have that data, but you cannot double check on the ground. You cannot talk to the people. You cannot, and you have to allow interview face to face without a response, a person in charge just checking the answer. I mean, this is the kind of relationship that will give sound and good information and good stories. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. In this time of fake news, we all need truth. In this time of deception, of manipulation, of lies, we need the truth and to give access to journalists. Now, I have the pleasure to give the word to Dr. Essa Aigadir. I hope I told your name. Thank you, Dr.
Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to participate in this distinguished panel and addressing the protection, humanitarian efforts, and human rights in Yemen. In fact, in times of conflicts, emergencies, protecting the affected people from violations against their human rights is one of the most significant issues in the field of humanitarian field. And in fact, over the last 3 years, the humanitarian situation in Yemen has deteriorated dramatically due to the many violations led by the Houthi militias. Despite the international efforts, human rights violations in Yemen persist. We have targeting civilians and also random use of explosive weapons and landmines. Also the massive dislocations of women and children, widespread attacks against humanitarians, against media staff are among the most crucial violations against human rights, let alone the recruitment of children soldiers in Yemen, which is considered a war against a crime against humanity. These violations have a crucial impact on the humanitarian situation in Yemen. And reducing the impact of these violations became among our core commitments at King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center. The center has presented 277 projects with a total cost of more than 1.6 billion, devoted exclusively to reduce the suffering for affected people in Yemen. Women and children in Yemen are among the most important in regard to reducing the violations against their human rights. We implemented 132 projects in Yemen for women and 136 projects in Yemen for children. And these projects, in fact, address the most important sectors in the humanitarian field: health, food, education, and shelter. Today, I'll be focusing on three important projects in our center: social and armed children rehabilitation program, and livelihood and women empowerment projects and education. In fact, many reports have shown that the Houthi militias violate international humanitarian and human rights law, the Geneva Convention, by using innocent civilians, women and children as shields in conflict-affected zones. These hostilities resulted in the death of one or two parents, orphans, and abandoned children in Yemen. Our center of this humanitarian situation, we funded, in fact, and responded to foster care projects to reduce the impact of the violations against children in Yemen. We target in that program 2,000 children in different parts and cities in Yemen. Due to the massive dislocation by Houthi militias, many Yemeni families suffer from dislocation, traumatic consequences, and forced them to flee Yemen. Some of the families have been displaced due to the ongoing instability in their communities. We have in Djibouti founded a project. This project is a village that contains 300 fully equipped units. Through this project, we managed to offer free access to health services and also to educational services to more than 2,000 stateless families in Djibouti. Now, this slide shows one of our successful rehabilitation programs in Yemen. We call it Child Soldier Rehabilitation Program. In fact, promoting the Convention of the Rights on the Child includes several statements of children protection against physical harm, against recruitment into armed groups, family separation, and denial of access to education, among many others. One of the most inhumane acts committed by the Houthi militias in Yemen is shown in creating young generation of terrorists involved in revenge, involved in violence, and as they participate in sustaining the armed conflict in Yemen. These innocent children are recruited as fighters, are recruited as landmine planters, are recruited as security guards in conflict zones in different parts of Yemen. The recruitment of these children under the age of 18 persists in different conflict zones and under the Houthi control areas, and it is considered as a war crime against humanity. Countless devastating stories document the violations of international humanitarian and human rights law committed by Houthi militias in Yemen. One case relates to a 13-year-old child soldier who was kidnapped and who was recruited by Houthi militias in the conflict zones without his family's knowledge. He disappeared for 9 months, and then he came to his family with a mental disorder. Another story relates to another child soldier who also was kidnapped and recruited in the conflict zones and also disappeared and was killed and buried without his family's knowledge. Many of Yemeni families were enforced to abandon their children just for the sake of much needed money. King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center offers child protection programs focusing on the prevention of and also response to abuse, neglect, and exploitation and violence against children in times of emergencies. Our rehabilitation program for armed children enhances resilience, enhances peace, and also empowerment and social cohesion among 2,000 children soldiers, regardless of their political and ethnic background. In Marib, we have launched the fifth and sixth phases of this program, in which 240 children have been rehabilitated. In fact, there are 20,000 children soldiers in different parts of Yemen that wait for urgent international humanitarian assistance. Our livelihood programs are meant to empower women in Yemen. According to international humanitarian law, and men and women are equal in their enjoyment of all human rights. Therefore, whereas the humanitarian situation of women and girls in Yemen is very, very complex. In fact, the rate of human violations against women and girls is very high, and it is also increasing rapidly. Through our programs, which target and address the humanitarian needs of women in Yemen, we intend to empower women, specifically dependent women, through vocational and training programs. Through these programs, we prepare these dependent women to find rewarding employment, and also to enable them to sustain a change for themselves, for their families, and for their also their communities. Among also our important and significant programs are those which address education in Yemen. All individuals have the right to education. The right is articulated in many international conventions, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Geneva Convention, the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Over the last 3 years, unfortunately, the Houthi militias destroyed schools, and also 2/3 of teachers in Yemen have not been paid their salaries. 4 million children are in a state of emergency. These violations and others have increased, in fact, the rate of out-of-school children. Um, Education is the most powerful investment in the future of children in Yemen. We have launched 9 projects in Yemen to reintegrate displaced students, to rehabilitate damaged schools, and also to build the skills and of teachers, of both teachers and educational leadership. Um, in fact, ladies and gentlemen, finally, our shared humanity determines bridging the gaps, creating strong connections, addressing the human suffering of affected people in Yemen and elsewhere through positive and sustainable humanitarian actions leading to permanent peace, to permanent prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. And now I give the word to His Excellency the Minister.
Thank you, Francois. Actually, I have a few points about the speech which we heard by Mr. Michel, and the good presentation from our colleague Hassa from Center of King Salman. Actually, when he said, Mr. Mitchell, about the relationship between media and the humanitarian crisis, and how the media serve the humanitarian issues and the opposite, I think in Yemen that the media, what's our name in this conference, so what's the perspective of human rights to look to the media, international media. Actually, we look the international media, we have unfair coverage of the issue in Yemen, especially the humanitarian issue. When we talked about this big humanitarian crisis, and we don't talk about what's the main reason of this crisis, I think we are unfair to deal with this crisis. I hope that we can organize some of visits for the international journalists and media to interact and access to Yemen, even the liberated area or the unliberated area which is controlled by the militia, and to see the truth and to send this picture to the all over the world. We hope from these discussions, from these lectures, to understand what's the truth in the ground in Yemen. The truth is very simple. There is a legitimate government and there is a coup, and this coup is the main reason of all our destruction. We have documented as a Ministry of Human Rights many of records of violations of human rights, and I'm sorry to say that a little bit of international media are taking these records in concern. That's in the lecture of Mr. Michel, and about the lecture of Dr. Hassa. Actually, I am very abroad of all programs of Mr. Of King Salman Center, but actually we need not only the Center of King Salman, we need all the international organizations to give the humanitarian needs for the people of Yemen. Now in Hodeidah, in these days, we have thousands of people are displaced from their homes, from their houses, from their streets. So we need a lot. We thank Mr. Center of King Salman, but we need a lot. We need the international organizations, the UN agencies, to intervention in Yemen to help these people also as Center of King Salman work in Yemen. That's what I want to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I have a word to say now, which is important for everybody. We need truth. We need the facts. And 4 sisters of Mother Teresa, the Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta, were killed in Yemen. They came at the request of the former president of Yemen. 12 collaborators of those 4 sisters were killed. And we asked the authorities here present, could we have an official commission, international official commissions, to make an inquiry, a fair inquiry, to have open access to all the facts, all the data in the country, to know who killed the 4 sisters of Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who killed the 12 collaborators of Mother Teresa. Just as an example, to have the facts, to have the trust of the international community, and to establish a fair process for peace in Yemen. Now, I think it's the time of the question. Mr. Michael, maybe you can come back to the table. We have here a microphone, if somebody can go to the people asking questions. You're ready to raise any question. Really, we need the truth and we need the peace. Who wants to raise the first question? Okay. Can somebody give the microphone? Oh, you have okay. Let's go, because we need to concentrate. Okay.
السؤال الأول موجه للدكتورة حصة. ما هي برامجكم لإعادة تأهيل الأطفال المجندين في الحرب في اليمن؟
Est-ce que vous pouvez donner plus de détails sur le programme concernant la réhabilitation des enfants militarisés au Yémen? Thank you. This is a very good question. As you may know, the rate of the human violations of human rights against children is very high, and it is, in fact, increasing rapidly. We're very concerned about the condition of children in Yemen. Human rights reports show that the number of we have like more than 4 million children in Yemen who need our humanitarian help and assistance. Regarding our objective behind these rehabilitation programs targeting children soldiers is in fact to replace the culture of violence and the culture of terrorism with the culture of peace and resilience. We target these children to reduce the violations of their human rights, to empower them and to enable them to see the future. Thank you very much.
Next question, please. Again, yes.
السؤال الثاني موجه للأستاذ ميشيل. في الآن ونحن في حالة وجود في عدم وجود صحفيين حقيقيين هنالك كثير من الأشخاص الذين ينقلون الأوضاع مباشرة ونجدها في كل وسائل الإعلام في نفس اللحظة. هل هؤلاء الأشخاص يمثلون منافسون حقيقيون للصحافة والصحفيين والحقيقة؟
Dans l'absence de journalistes, comme vous l'avez dit, sur le terrain et ayant un background, il y a beaucoup d'informations qui circulent en même temps dans les médias ou les réseaux sociaux. Croyez-vous qu'ils concurrencent un peu le journalisme et les vrais médias?
Can I add the question as well? Was there, so you can do it better? Oh, I can say it in the yeah.
We need a microphone.
I think my voice is big. Yeah. My question is like I wanted to add to her question is how we know it's a fake news or not fake news, because what's happening, even they told us a lot of things about even Donald Trump, the U.S. president. They talk about him things that unfortunately is not right, and we find that it's really fake. So today, how do we know between the the fluent big social media and everybody by his smartphone he can make a news and the true news? How do we can people they know, because today actually we're getting confused and a lot of people they don't understand between the right human right as well who work in the refugee and the camp area and the fake one as well they came and the other society. The people they get confused. How do we know exactly specific between the true news and not the fake one? Thank you.
Thank you. This is exactly why we need journalists. It's to verify the news. But first of all, media can be tracked. I mean, some of the media are always right. I mean, there are some famous stories in the history of journalism where they themselves distributed fake news. There was one good example in the beginning of the revolution in Romania where there was a fake mass grave that was not at all linked to the revolution, but it made covers photos all over the world. But it was later discovered that it was just made up. So the media can have their responsibility. But now the journalists themselves are more and more trained to chase the fake news. I mean, we have a certain procedures to see how can you identify something that is fake, fake or untrue. It's more difficult when you have only one source, because then you have to rely on it. And this is why I insist on the fact that when you have a journalist, a serious journalist, on the ground, that make his or her own assessment, this is always better. Now you speak of all the news that are circulating on the internet. One of the very simple means to verify is just to check with other sources. If you have only one source saying something, you can be suspicious. If you have different sources with different media that relay the news, it might be a sign that it's serious. Now there are more technical means, for example, to check if the photo has been edited or doctored. There is very, very powerful software now that can analyze a picture pixel by pixel to see if it was manipulated. There are all these means, but it takes time, it takes money, it takes capacity, but it exists. The first reflex is not to trust 100% what is circulating, because nobody knows. I don't know if you answer the question.
I can give an answer for a part of this question. Always look who is benefiting from the crime. It's a Latin word of wisdom. Who is benefiting of the crime? It's the first question. From where the money is coming from? Are they dealers of weapons, of drugs? Really, it's very simple. And if necessary, I have a whole documentation. I can give it to you freely to raise those questions. Who is behind? Who is taking benefits of the situation? Because even in Yemen, you think there are two sides. But many times there are not only two sides. You have many sides. And the worst are the covered sides, the people in the back. You don't know the names. You don't know the name of the organization. You know, there are really some bad people allied in organizations who are benefiting of the exploitation of children, of the killing of children, of women, of men, of mass destruction, of wars. You know, really in this time of fake news, you remember all General Powell of United States and the United Nations showing a bottle of something saying it's anthrax, is massive destruction weapons in Iraq. It was a fake news. Everything was fake. He even admitted it himself. And you have many cases like this. Then who is benefiting from the crime? Okay, next question, please. Take the microphone. Come here.
Thank you so much for the project, ladies and gentlemen. I want just to say something regarding the aid donated by Saudi Arabia and Salman. But it's still a problem. We can, by this place, deliver a message. So, because of the deportation of Yemeni workers and the other things, the closing of the borders. So, this increased the problem. And from economic perspective, it that thousands of deported people, Yemenis, could be picking up guns and join Houthi because of the deportation. The other things, instead of these Yemenis going to Sudan or Egypt, there must be a gateway through Saudi Arabia. It is the closest. So Saudi Arabia must facilitate the movement, their transportation, their things, instead of going to Egypt or Sudan. So the other things, as my father told me, but I tried not to believe him. There is no biased media. I want to ask Mr. Michel, why the media not focusing on Yemen exactly? Because of the weapon traders, because of no interest in Yemen? Please, if you can elaborate on this point, I would be appreciated.
I think in my presentation I had, without naming Yemen or other actors, I had part of the answer. That it's a mixture of complicated story for the journalists to go in. It's a lack of access, lack of visual. Still, there were some. I discovered a long story on the New York Times. I don't know when it was, in 2014 or 16, I don't remember. So there were some, but most of the journalists, they complain of the access. So why they don't focus? It's a mixture of everything. I mean, I think we can blame them, but it doesn't change anything. That the rationals are irrational. I mean, why? I mean, they cannot focus on. This can be an explanation. They cannot focus on Syria and Yemen at the same time. It's too much. They cannot fill their page with this and that, and then Venezuela, and then you have the storm in the east coast of the U.S. that is hitting today or yesterday, I don't remember. It will be probably a major humanitarian issue, and all the media will focus on that because the U.S. are closer still to Europe than the Arab world. But this is a mixture. There is no one reason, and I think there is no plan. I mean, we have there is no plot, not to speak of Yemen. If you have journalists, they are interested by good journalist stories. area. If you give an opportunity for a good story, they will do.
I can give another part of the answer. First of all, the country is closed, and secondly, the country is very dangerous. Okay, question.
Part of the question about the blockade. This is one actually of the fake news. I assure you that all the ports are open, even the Saudi land and the seaport of Jizan is open to carry humanitarian aid, medical supplies to Yemen. There was a blockade which was only for 10 days when the first missile Scott launched to Riyadh. They agreed that, and we admit it was a complete blockade for 10 days just to be sure about the not smuggling the Scott missiles from Iran to Saudi Arabia. After being sure about that and rearrangement of these ports, all ports are open now, I assure you. The land ports, we are witnessing a lot of convoys going from Saudi Arabia and from the international organization. Even WHO is purchasing her IV fluids from Saudi Arabia and through the land port. It's going to all areas of Yemen. We are offering even medical supplies to hospitals in Yemen, like Saada and Hajjah Hospital, operated, budget, all from Saudi Arabia, though it is in the Houthi occupied territories. And Houthis, they allow medical supplies to go to these hospitals because it helps them, it helps their people. They know that we are funding Saudi Arabia's King Salman. They allow it, but they don't allow other humanitarian aid. So it is a fake news, assure you that the land ports are closed, even the seaports, all of them are open to all humanitarian type of aids, provided that no smuggling of weapons of mass destruction to attack Saudi Arabia and the surrounding countries. And I don't understand the other part of your question. You want people to leave Yemen? We don't want that. Because 80% of the Yemeni land is in the legitimate government hands. We want the Yemenis to be inside Yemen. And we made a project costing $20 million to repatriate these people from Emirates, from Somalia, from Djibouti, and from Egypt, and from India, back to their land, homeland in Yemen. So we would like Yemenis to go back to their countries to stop this coup and rearrange and help in the building of their countries. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Essam.
Yeah, regarding your question, Saudi Arabia is the largest donor to Yemen. We are speaking about 11.16 billion US dollars to Yemen. We do care very much about Yemen, about the people of Yemen. We do care very much about the ongoing armed conflict led by the Houthi militias, and we are here to document and report all of these violations against Yemeni people. And in regard to your question concerning the refugees, in fact, Saudi Arabia has hosted more than 561,000 Yemenis so far. They have free access to education, to health services, and also to employment. So, but about the economic condition, which is deteriorating right now, I think the responsibility is in fact aiming to deteriorate the financial condition of Yemen and to also continue with their violations against the human rights of Yemeni people. Thank you.
Just a short interruption. We give a few minutes the word to His Excellency the Minister. Then we will have another session.
I will ask Anna and Pras to be ready, and please be very briefly because we don't have much time.
Thank you. I am very pleased to listen to this interactive dialogue. Actually, I would like to give a small comment about why Saudi Arabia didn't allow Yemenis to be a transit to point to travel to another where in the world. I think in the early months in this war and in this crisis, the Saudi authorities allowed many thousands of Yemeni to access to use the airports and ports of Saudi Arabia. But now we have an international airport in Aden and international airport in Saloon, and our airports are open now for all Yemenis, so we don't need to access to another country to travel to another way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we will have the next session, please.
Deuxième carte, vous avez récupéré la première vous allez faire la sauvegarde. Ouais. Oui.
Okay, thank you. We don't have a lot of time. We have only nearly 25 minutes. Then I give the word, ladies first, to the lady Hannah from Spain.
Hi, my name is Ana Luis. Bonjour, Madame, Monsieur. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad to be here. Let me speak in English because my French is not really fluent. And I had a lot to tell you, but I think all of the people who talked today said many things I was going to say also. For me, the most important part of what's going on in Yemen has to do with children. We know children are the world. We have to think about what's going on and why are children being recruited. You can see this image, and we have many things to say, that this child has been born with poverty, has been had an arm, a weapon or something, and has known how are they using them. My question always says, is media really saying about what's going on with children? I'm not really sure. I think we are responsible as journalists to say to the world what happens with the kids in Yemen. A number of them are recruited, are exploited, and their impact youth media has been stimulated more than 15,000, as you know, and the figures you've been listening to all the people who are performing. It's very important that the world knows that these children are recruited and be trained. They are really training, and they are training in the war. They have a big problem with the resilience because they are born and they know how they are, and they have been learning during the infant years. I mean, from 5 to 12 years, they learn how to fight. And the important thing is the 80% of the children are conferred and attributed by the Houthi militia. This percentage, we can say now it's about a 95 today. So are all the children being recruited? That's the question. Are the children coming to be? And how do they teach them? That's my other question. It's very important to say that they've been captured. Most of them have been kidnapped. Most of them are dead, and they never come back to their houses again. And media has to say to the world that they obey, they really fight, and they're really too small to understand what's going on. That's a real problem, the psychological problem. I work on psychiatry and psychologically also, and I really share with you that the problems the children have when they are so young carry on with them during all their lives. I mean, it's not because they're children now, it's because they are going to be an adult, which are going to be in a severe problem because they can't work out that. I mean, it's absolutely impossible to work out if you're brought up in that type of situation. You know what life is when you play. You know what life is when you dream, but not when you're suffering as they do. Still, I say, media is responsible for not saying all the words about the children. Please do so. If you can carry that, please do so. We only say about militia problems. We say how the adults' problems, but we never talk about the children in particular, and they're the future of Yemen. This is not working. Yeah. The testimonies of the children recruited, they're witnesses of death. As I say, they have names, and most of them have been found dead. They never come back. They're never going back home. The National Army and the legitimated government released hundreds of children, soldiers captured when we were fighting. Many children have been rehabilitated to overcome these psychological effects. But I say to you again that you can't get over that, as far as we know. In psychiatry, as far as we know, you're not able to get over that because you can't hang out what's life, because you have to learn what life means since you learn, and they don't have the possibility of learning either. I mean, schools, they're getting up from school for about 6 years old, so they can't really think about what they're doing because they have no way of doing it. How do they employ children? Well, most of them are from poor families, so they're really exploited, and the school system is up, they're brainwashed. I mean, their brain is not thinking, they think for them. And for them, another problem is the fight is a great pride. It's something very interesting for them because they are brought up and they get as a big soldier when really they're little children which are played to be other people. And the question is, what about education? School, it's versus training camps. I was thinking about thousands of children are supposed to be in school and really are employed by militia, including militia, which are recruiting them. So most of them, their parents won't know, but most of them, their parents know, and they just let them go because they have a lot of pressure and they can't help them. Okay. I find this image, which was terrible for me, so nice in this world in Paris. To say I have this bag uniform gave me the last year, and it's useful for me to use this year. Saving my family, my fortune. Do you imagine just wearing in a bag? How many things does he have in it? Because he has a choice of learning, and this is a great choice when you're in Yemen fighting. And the great choice is to learn, and he had the opportunity. Okay, I think we don't have a lot of time, so
Okay.
I have the figures, and I think we, well, can I go ahead or 3 minutes? Okay. Okay. The other question is if children are not treated in time, we could have 11 times that more likely to have healthy children, even if they survive and face again. There's not the risk of achieving their development potential. Is to achieve what happens to the next generation. What happens to those boys and girls which now are 6 or 7 years old? In 10 years, they will be the biggest adults. I mean, they're still very little. They have to acute malnutrition. They have a lot of problems with their health. And we know this because most of you just say what happens with the figures, but it's really terrible when we're listening about what's going on. I mean, the population is about 22 million persons are just suffering, but 11 million are children. So be aware of that. Still, this image says, by arming them, which is militias, violate the rights of Yemen children. And this is what you can relate when you talk about them and you really share with people what's coming on and what's turning on in Yemen as in well, not talking about Houthis, but let me see if I can, in addition to that. Well, I have to cut you now. Okay, so I said so here. Let me see. Well, I think I have to finish. I only thank to the Ministry of Human Rights for his working and his doing on.
Okay.
And I thank all of you for listening to me, and I find us media and journalists to be responsible for what's taking place in Yemen. Please share what's taking on with children. Don't forget.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and I'm very sorry for the short time, but we had technical problems. Then I have the pleasure to give the word to a Yemeni journalist, Mr. Ferraz. Thank you, Mr. Ferraz.
الإعلام الدولي والأزمة الإنسانية في اليمن من منظور الإعلام تغطية الإعلام الدولي لأحداث اليمن.
Oui, on va parler de la couverture des médias internationaux des problèmes du Yémen.
لم تكن تغطية الإعلام الدولي للأزمة الإنسانية في اليمن إيجابية في مجملها.
En général, la couverture des médias internationaux n'est pas positive
généralement parlant.
خصوصا الإعلام الغربي.
Surtout les médias occidentaux.
حتى يميل بشكل كبير إلى جانب الانقلاب.
Car il est plutôt du côté des rebelles.
ولا يسلط الضوء على الجرائم التي تسبب بهذا الانقلاب.
Et on ne parle pas assez des contraventions que font les rebelles au Yémen.
هذه التغطية المنحازة تشكل خطورة تكمن في التأثير على مواقف صناع القرار الأزلي.
Et on trouve que c'est une ouverture biaisée et qui influence les pouvoirs et les preneurs de décision.
كما أنها ستؤثر على الأبحاث والدراسات التي تجريها مراكز البحوث.
Et en plus, elle influence aussi les rapporteurs et les chercheurs.
يركز الإعلام الدولي عادة على المملكة العربية السعودية ويتحول أحيانا إلى ناطق بلسان الميليشيات الانقلابية.
Les médias internationaux souvent mettent sous un mauvais angle l'Arabie saoudite et ils se transforment en porte-parole des rebelles.
كما يعتمد هذا الإعلام على تقارير من المنظمات غير محايدة.
Et ils se basent sur des rapports qui ne sont pas neutres. Et qui sont souvent contrôlés par les rebelles et ممكن تعيد آخر فقرة؟ تخضع للسلطة. نعم.
كما يعتمد تخضع لسيطرة الحوثيين تكون غالبية قدم مبلغة.
Oui, donc c'est des rapports souvent qui sont orientés contre la coalition arabe et contre le gouvernement reconnu internationalement. Parmi les côtés négatifs des couvertures des médias internationaux, c'est souvent simplifier la situation en un conflit interne sans mettre le point sur l'influence iranienne.
أهدافهم ميول الوسائل الإعلامية الغربية التي تسعى بعضها إلى ابتزاز دول التحالف العربي.
Et certains vont jusqu'à une forme de chantage des gouvernements de la coalition arabe.
عدم وجود المراسلين الميدانيين بكثافة على الأرض والاعتماد في معظم التغطيات على الوسطاء.
Il n'y a pas assez de correspondants journalistes sur le terrain et on se base souvent sur des médiateurs ou des intermédiaires.
حسب التصوير الإعلامي على الضحايا اللي تصورها قنوات حوثية أو مدعومة من إيران.
Et on se limite aux images que les rebelles offrent concernant des victimes, des enfants.
Voilà.
La question c'est pourquoi ce parti pris.
لتمتلك وسائل الإعلام الدولية مراسلين ميدانيين في اليمن إطلاقا سواء في المناطق المحررة أو غير.
Il n'y a quasiment pas de correspondants journalistes sur le terrain, ni dans les territoires libérés, ni chez les Houthis.
لذلك فإن التغطية الإعلامية في وسائل الإعلام الغربية والدولية تأتي غالبا من تبني لآراء الانقلابيين ووجهة نظرهم.
Et souvent, les couvertures de ce qui se passe n'expriment que la position des Houthis.
هناك أيضا سعي كثير من الصحفيين والمراسلين في وسائل الإعلام الدولية إلى ابتزاز المملكة العربية السعودية وتصفية حسابات معها عبر الحل في اليمن.
Souvent, il y a une forme de chantage adressée à l'Arabie Saoudite et une forme de règlement de compte avec l'Arabie Saoudite en se prétextant du problème du Yémen.
دور اللوبي الإيراني الدولي وهو دور له تأثير كبير في المؤسسات الإعلامية والمنظمات الدولية.
Le rôle du lobby iranien a un grand rôle dans l'influence de l'opinion dans les institutions internationales.
من المعروف أن إيران استغلت دراعها في العراق ولبنان والبحرين وباكستان وأفغانستان لخدمات الميليشيات الحوثية عبر الإعلاميين.
Il est connu que l'Iran utilise son influence dans divers pays du Moyen-Orient et en Asie pour soutenir les rebelles.
واختصارا سأتحدث عن موقف شخصي مع ميليشيات الحوثية.
En conclusion, je voudrais parler d'un événement personnel avec les Houthis. C'est le journal Al-Haqiqa, La Vérité, dont je suis le rédacteur en chef. Elle est éditée depuis 1996 au Yémen.
في 2014 قامت ميليشيات الحوثي بإصدار صحيفة تحمل نفس الاسم.
En 2014, les Houthis ont édité un même journal qui porte le même nom. Ils ont accaparé notre journal, contrairement à toutes les us et les...
هذا مثال بسيط على ما تقوم به الميليشيات من السطو والاغتصاب والقتل حتى على الصحف.
Ce n'est qu'un petit exemple de ce que les rebelles font contre. Ils ont aussi arrêté et bloqué les sites internet. Et c'est pour ça que la vérité reste toujours absente et pas connue. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ferraz. Maybe I give the word to the ministry, or?
Okay, we have 2 minutes. Okay, and thank you, and thank for the 2 speech talk, even Anne and Mr. Ferraz. Actually, I am very proud of the lecture which gave by Anne. She talked about the recruitment of children in Yemen. This is a big crime in Yemen. I'd like to correct the number now, not 15,000. Our reports are 20,000 of children. So this is a very important issue in Yemen. This is not treated the present Yemen, but also the future of Yemen. More than 2,300 schools are distracted by militia, and we are very, very afraid of our future by this big crime in Yemen about children. And about Mr. Faraz, I am thank him very much because he coming today from a long far flight until he coming to tell us what happened to him for his journal Al-Haqiqa. He is violated by also militia. He is a victim of militia Al-Houthi actually. Thank you so much, and thank you, Francois, for that.
Okay, shukran jazilan, everybody. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you, everybody.
الله يعطيك Just the bigger Sikopim? Or take a picture. No. Just only the bigger. كل الرسول ما قال لا. Just the speaker. صور يا مساعد يلا صور يا مساعد مساعد صور شنو صور شنو سيمي ارجع ورا شويه يا مساعد اديها البنت تعالي ساره يا ريت نص سنه لو يا تعال انت جلس احنا نوقف ريلي سلم عليك يا استاذ عشان كامله صوره كامله كفلي بالأحمر.